Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 24 driver crew mode with myself driving for Sauber in this first season. If you did miss the last episode around Canada, it was a 60th career win for Max Verstappen. He ended up winning by over 11 seconds to Carlos Sainz, so an absolute pure domination from Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton rounded out the podium in Canada. Myself came home with a brilliant P4 in the end. It was an absolute sweat session. I was concentrating so hard, pretty much just doing quali lap after quali lap after quali lap to try and make sure that I was getting the best performance possible out of this Sauber car, and managed to bring it home in P4. It's a very good result. And there was a big swing in the championship with Max Verstappen not only dominating the race, but Lando Norris, he was only able to grab P9 in the end, and his teammate Oscar Piastri no better either, P13, so only 2 points in the end for McLaren to take away from Canada. So a very bad weekend for the team, who was looking to try and get a World Constructors Championship this season, and possibly even a Drivers' Championship with Lando Norris. Our teammate ended up coming home in P15, and Sergio Perez was the only non-finisher for Canada. As we now take a look at the R&D going into this weekend, we're going to have a look here in the durability at the Energy Store Improved Materials upgrade. So taking just a look at when we could possibly get this upgrade. So the standard development will bring it in before Silverstone, so a couple of races time, but if we rush it, it will come in before this race. But as we take a look, it's a 55% chance of failure if we do try and get it done before this upcoming race. So I am just going to wait for it. It's going to get a standard one, just because if it's going to be greater than 50%, I don't really want to rush it, because knowing my luck, it's going to fail. So we're just going to standard it, and taking a look down at the bottom corner there, that is going to skyrocket the durability for this car well up towards the top with the front runners. So this car is looking very fine indeed in the durability specs at least. Taking a look at our specialist now, so the power unit consultant ERS for 35 seconds, material fabrication planner 10 laps during the race weekend, easy as. Quality assurance tester, 2 sets of tyres in practice, and strategy analysis, driven lap in 2 of the sessions. So very easy stuff indeed. And as we advance the time there, you're going to see we've got 2 failed upgrades. So definitely not what we want to see going into this race weekend. And we're going to have a look at the aerodynamics, and unfortunately we just don't have enough points to repurchase that wing mirrors upgrade that did fail. So we're going to have to try and wait for that a little bit longer, maybe before the next race weekend in the end. And then it's going to be up to the development upgrades that have made it in for this race weekend. So it's the MG UK, improved materials, and the turbo reliability have both passed, and so we'll have those for this race weekend. But again, the wing mirrors, and it was the front nose cone, so a pretty major upgrade in the end, didn't make it to the car, which is unfortunate. But taking a look at the greater picture here, so Red Bull have lost their performance gap to McLaren, but they still remain the fastest car, and it's still a very large gap to Aston Martin and Ferrari. But you'll notice that Mercedes have also not brought in any upgrades going to Spain, so they have fallen away from Aston and Ferrari. And then looking for further down the pack there, RB, they've fallen into the clutches of the rest of the pack there, so they're still ahead of Sauber, Williams and Alpine, and then Haas have fallen off the back of that as well. So we're really seeing 2 packs start to form, and unfortunately for Haas, they are starting to fall off the back of it, but hopefully they can get a few upgrades going in as we now get ready for qualifying.
It's a Catalonian qualifying for you today. Welcome along to Spain, to Barcelona, and wherever you are in the world. Do you feel the need? The need for speed?
And speed is what we'll be aiming for. This is one of those tracks where you just have to nail the lap if you want a good lap time, and we're going to get straight away into it, and we're going to be using too much speed, as we're going to go for a bit of a spin. We'll overcorrect it and tap the wall, which is going to need a replacement for the front wing, as Mark was explaining just then. So that is definitely going to set us back on the back foot there and put us out of sync, as well as now we'll come around the final corner to finally finish our first flying lap after going in for some repairs, and that's only going to put us P13 for the moment. So we're going to have to definitely go again just to make sure that we're going to be safe. As you can see there, we drop all the way down to P17, but that lap was a decent improvement on a set of new tyres, and that's going to put us P10. And at the end of Q1, it is going to be Lando Norris, who was fastest by 900ths of a second to Lewis Hamilton. George Russell sits P3, making it a British top 3 in Q1. Myself sits P10, we're half a second back, and knocked out in qualifying 1. It's Pierre Gasly, Valtteri Bottas, their teammate, Kevin Magnussen, Logan Sargent, and Nico Hulkenberg failing to make it to the next round of qualifying. We're going to get straight away into it. It's a much more overcast qualifying session this time around, and we're going to go straight away into P8 on that first set of tyres, a scrub set of tyres, and now we're on a fresh set of tyres, half a second better, rounding the final corner. And is that going to be good enough to put us into qualifying 3 here today? And it is a P6 finish. And taking a look here, it is Fernando Alonso, the home hero, fastest in qualifying 2 by 7,000ths of a second ahead of Lando Norris. Max Verstappen takes third, he's 2/10 back. Myself, P6, half a second back, and knocked down qualifying 2. And one of the other home drivers, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, gone. Esteban Ocon is also out. Sergio Perez in the Red Bull has also been knocked out. Alex Albon and Daniel Ricciardo also failing to make it into this final qualifying session. A couple of big names there that should have been through that have not made it, which will make it a little bit more interesting in this final session here. Fernando Alonso sets the pace very early on. We go P7 on a set of scrub tyres, so hopefully on a set of fresh tyres we can get the job done and see how far up we can go as we round the final corner, dumping the ERS all the way to the line, and we'll stay P7 here in qualifying. So a pretty good qualifying. It's always good to get into Q3, especially in this car. And Max Verstappen takes pole position by 7,000ths of a second ahead of Lando Norris, so it's very close margins here in qualifying. Fernando Alonso, he's also in the top 3, nearly 2/10 back, and myself ended up 7/10 back.
So many eventful races here in Barcelona over the years. Do you remember Max Verstappen's first win on debut for Red Bull here in 2016? 2 years before, we had the dramatic coming together of Hamilton and Rosberg going towards turn 4. There's always a treat in store as we head back to the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. It's an updated track at Catalunya, and we welcome the removal of the chicane in the final sector, shortening lap times and reducing the total running to 2.9 miles and 14 turns. This was actually the original setup for the track, but it hasn't been used since 2007. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Lando Norris lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Russell, Stroll, Lightning, Hamilton, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Sainz, Ocon, Perez, Albon, Ricciardo, Gasly, Magnussen, Sargent, Hulkenberg, and Valtteri Bottas begins the race from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Right, let's see if we can push for another points finish in this race. Good luck.
Whenever I do qualify inside the top 10, the points is always trying to be the minimum. And taking a look at the strategy here, there's really not a lot to do. A one stop is going to be the way to go, but I am going to push that pit stop window just back a little bit, bring it a bit closer, as now we sit on the grid for the lights to go. It's 5 red lights, and it's a much shorter 5 red lights this time, as we're already underway. It caught me napping a little bit there, and I kind of panicked and put a bit too much throttle on there, but our second phase of the start there is so much better. We go onto the grass to try and get around George Russell. We're going to send it around the outside. We're 3 wide, get a bit of a squeeze, a little bit of a side pod contact there with Stroll, I think that was. And we're currently now sitting in P5. Lando Norris leads the way ahead of Alonso and Verstappen, Piastri, myself, Stroll, Leclerc. The 2 Mercedes with Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton is currently side by side with Carlos Sainz. So the other Ferrari driver is looking to try and get himself straight away back inside the top 10. And he's sending it down the inside of Lewis Hamilton now. So Lewis, the big loser out of this start phase here, losing a couple of positions. And is Carlos Sainz going to be able to finish off this move going into this fast S section, going up the hill? And he does. No, he doesn't. Lewis Hamilton, very nicely done. Keeps it up there. And he's actually going to seal the deal and get the position back before they head onto the straight. As we take a look here at the replay of Charles Leclerc on his race start. So it was a little bit bogged down, but the second phase of the start, just like mine, was really good as we started getting the slipstream from other people, and he sends it down the inside of the Mercedes, and then he sends it even further, and that's how he's going to get some damage there, losing the end plate on the left-hand side of his front wing. So not a great start, and you can immediately see the effect there as I think that was a Stroll ended up just being able to walk around the outside of him, as Max Verstappen now is looking to get himself up into P2 here around the outside of Fernando Alonso, and it looks like Alonso is going to have the inside line here going into turn 3, which is the preferred line. There's not too much grip there on the outside of the circuit, and it is going to be Fernando Alonso holding onto the position just for now, but Max Verstappen very quickly onto the next lap is looking to get back by him, and he has done it immediately before they even reach to the corner. He gets it done into the braking zone of turn 1, and that is Max Verstappen up into P2, as now Sergio Perez is looking to get himself back inside the top 10, but it doesn't look like it's going to be happening anytime too soon, because Yuki Tsunoda is putting up one hell of a fight to hold up that other Red Bull, which, if Yuki Tsunoda really wants to get into the main Red Bull team, I don't think this is the world's smartest thing to do. Yes, he needs to be impressing Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, but holding up one of the Red Bull cars is definitely probably not the way to go here in this F1 career mode, as Fernando Alonso gets himself back by Max Verstappen, and Max Verstappen's not going to make this easy again. He's going to send it back down the inside. Is Fernando Alonso going to be hanging it around the outside? No, Max Verstappen gives him the squeeze, and that is Max maintaining his P2 finish here, as Sergio Perez now has actually got himself back up into P10 there. Yuki Tsunoda's lost a chunk of positions there, sitting P13 at the moment, as Alonso is now under attack from the other McLaren of Oscar Piastri, but Alonso is actually going to turn this into an opportunity to get by Max Verstappen, and Oscar's now going to try and get by Max Verstappen. Could he possibly lose 2 positions here and go from P2 all the way down to P4? It looks like he's going to be able to maintain his P3 just for now against Oscar Piastri. But as I say that, he's managed to get up the inside here at turn 4, and we've now hung out around the outside. We're 3 wide just for a little bit here, and Max Verstappen's actually going to block us off, but that's going to allow us to send the dive bomb down onto Oscar Piastri, down into turn 5 here, and we're going to have to dump a heap of ERS to try and get ourselves back in front of him, and we're going to have to go side by side now through this fast S section. Are we able to hang it around the outside? No, we can't. We'll have to tuck in behind Oscar Piastri here and to get ourselves prepped to try and move for another time, and Max is in the gravel. Max is in the gravel. This is going to be huge for the championship. Max Verstappen currently leads the championship, and he is now in the gravel trap. Will he be able to get it out of the gravel here in Spain? And taking a look at the replay here, he just understeers wide. Is there maybe a little bit of damage or something that we don't know about that's caused him to run wide there? And this confirms that he does have some damage there as he pulls it into the pit lane. He's missing the end plate there on the right hand side of his front wing, and he's going to have to come in for some early repairs, which is going to drop him all the way down to last place. And now it's lap 6 of the Grand Prix, and our engine is already cooking. We have to keep the engine temperatures right down if we want to try and make it to the end of this Grand Prix, as now this is Stroll. He's getting by us, so we're starting to lose a bit of straight line speed. Maybe we're down on engine power because Stroll has made that look very easy to get by us. Now lap 9, 3 laps later, Mark is quite happy there. He thinks that we've done a sufficient enough job to keep the engine nice and cool, so I'm happy enough now to go back again to full attack there, immediately trying to get by Lance Stroll, but it just didn't happen, so we're going to have to sit by and just wait. And now going onto lap 10, we're going to use a heap of ERS to send it all the way down the inside. I actually have to drop it down an extra gear to make sure the car gets stopped, as our line is a bit more narrower than more expected. And now Stroll is immediately going on to the next lap, wanting to get by us again. So maybe that straight line speed isn't as good as I was expecting. And Lewis Hamilton's also George Russell is also looking to get by us, but we slammed the door shut at turn 1 on George Russell to try and maintain our P5 at the moment. As we do an order check here after the first 10 laps of this Grand Prix, it is Lando Norris leading the way from Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri. Then it's Stroll sitting P4, myself P5. The 2 Mercedes, Russell ahead of Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz in P8 doing a recovery drive. The same as Sergio Perez sitting P9 from starting outside of the top 10. Esteban Ocon rounds out the top 10. Then you'll see Alex Albon sitting P11, and then the 2 RBs with Tsunoda, then Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Nico Hulkenberg, and that's Kevin Magnussen. He's just spun out from P18, and that's going to let Charles Leclerc now get by him out. How did Charles Leclerc get all the way down the P18? Charles Leclerc must have had to come in for a pit stop. If you do remember, at the start of this video, we did watch a replay of Charles Leclerc, and he did get some damage at the race start, so he must have had to come in for some pit repairs there, and Max Verstappen sitting P20 at the end there, as Lewis Hamilton now is looking to get himself by us as well. We've lost out to both Stroll and Russell recently, and we are struggling as Russell's now looking to get himself by Stroll, so the Mercedes have started coming into their own as the tyre wear starts to kick in, and Mercedes must be much nicer on their tyres in the longer runs, and you see there we're struggling a little bit there through what is meant to be a flat corner. We lost the rear end just slightly there, and Mark now wants us to try and get by Stroll, so he knows that our race was with Stroll, so he's given us the target. Go and get Stroll. Lewis Hamilton's in the way, but Hamilton should easily get himself by Stroll, but at the end of this lap we are going to be coming in for our hopefully one and only pit stop of this Grand Prix. We're going to get it very much slowed down. Ooh, four wheels locked up. So very nearly speeding in the pit lane, but we got it slowed down. That's the main thing, and we're going to get ourselves ready for this pit stop to go onto the hard tyres. Hopefully it is going to be a good and quick pit stop, a 2.4, which is a pretty good pit stop for our crew, and thanks to the boys and girls in the Kick Sauber team. And we are going to put ourselves into a pretty good position to hopefully try and get ourselves a bit of an undercut here, as Sainz and Perez go side by side. They're the two drivers trying to make a bit of a recovery drive here. They both missed out in qualifying 3, so starting the race from outside of the top 10. And here is Stroll. He is actually looking to try and get himself past the Mercedes, so maybe the Mercedes were a bit better on their tyres, but now they are absolutely falling off a cliff, and the Aston Martin now is coming into his own, because it looked like Russell was pulling away from Stroll, but he's going to come back at Stroll in going in through to turn 3, and Stroll has to let Russell go, or as then they could have possibly had a monumental accident there, and it is going to be the leader now, Lando Norris. He is in the lane for what I would imagine is his one and only pit stop going onto the hard tyres. He started the race on the mediums, and there are the white sidewall tyres, the hard tyre, going onto his car from the lead of the race. He had about a 2-second lead, and so it will be interesting to see where he comes out for ourselves. There we're now up to P10 as the pit cycle continues, and you can see we've caught right up to the back of Lewis Hamilton, and he's so slow coming out of the pit lane. We have to check up, drop it down an extra gear, and we haven't been able to take advantage of how slow he is coming out of the pit lane. But going on to the next lap here, using the power of DRS, there is George Russell. He's coming out of the pit lane too. Are we going to try and send it on George Russell? We do. 3 wide in the middle, and we get the job done on both of them. A very tight, very audacious move, but we got the move done, and now we can set our sights on Stroll, who has also come in for the hard set of tyres. Sergio Perez up ahead on the mediums. So I wonder if he's going to be trying to extend, or you never know, he could have already done his pit stop. I am unsure of what's going on with the Ferrari and the Red Bull of Sainz and Perez. Then you can see that we want to be using more ERS thanks to the message from Mark, as Fernando Alonso has actually taken the lead of the Grand Prix. So Lando Norris must not have had a very good outlap, and that allowed Fernando Alonso to catch right up, because Alonso followed him through into the pit lane. And we're going to do an order check here. So it's Alonso leading the way from Lando Norris, and then Oscar Piastri. Carlos Sainz, it's P4, Sergio Perez, then myself in P6. We're now ahead of Lance Stroll in P7, and then it's the 2 Mercedes of Hamilton, Russell. Then it's Esteban Ocon sitting in P10, and Gasly and Albon are currently battling it out for P11 here, but Albon's going to come out on top. Then it's Max Verstappen trying to make his drive back through the field after that very early pit stop after going wide into the gravel. And then it's Daniel Ricciardo, Nico Hülkenberg, Yuki Tsunoda, our teammate Valtteri Bottas sits P17, Logan Sargent P18, Charles Leclerc P19, and Kevin Magnussen sits P20 at the moment, and dumping a lot of ERS to try and pass his objective. He wants us to use all this ERS, and so we're going to be using a lot of ERS. We get the move done on Stroll. This is the move that we saw while we're doing the order check here, and there was just a little bit more to this story. You can see that we're already struggling on the tyres, that we've already started losing the rear end through the flat out corners, so there is something not right with this car and its tyre wear as we do pass that objective of using a heap of ERS. So we're really focused on what Mark has to give us as objectives, as now the battle for the lead is igniting. Lando Norris is going around the outside of Fernando Alonso, and that is going to put him into the lead of the Grand Prix, and Carlos Sainz has put himself now up onto the podium. So is there now possibly going to be 2 Spaniards on the podium here in the Spanish Grand Prix. And Fernando Alonso, he is not happy with P2. He wants the lead of this Grand Prix. He's going to go down the inside. Lando Norris covers, but it doesn't cover far enough. Fernando Alonso sends it down the inside. They're going to stay side by side, but surely this will give him the better line going into turn 3, and it does. Lando Norris slots in behind. On board with ourselves here, Stroll is getting by us with the power DRS, so our straight line speed still struggling a little bit, so maybe there is a bit more to be worried about than just a hot engine, and so we'll have to do a bit of research into that after this race weekend. Lando Norris now is looking to get himself back into the lead of the race, so we've got quite the battle for this win. Lando Norris is in a championship battle. Fernando Alonso, he wants to get that inclusive 33rd win. It's been eluding him for so long, and now Piastri has just now lost out to Carlos Sainz once again. And going on to lap 22, Fernando Alonso is going to have another crack at the lead here. Lando Norris has gone incredibly defensive there, and Fernando is not too phased as he goes around the outside. This will probably give Lando now the preferred line, as Fernando is going to slot back behind Lando Norris as Piastri and Sainz continue the battle out, and they've now got Sergio Perez for company, so a lot to be playing out here, as Perez is actually looking like he had a good run there, and he's going to try and go around the outside of Carlos Sainz at turn 4. Is he going to be able to get the move done on the other Spaniard in this Grand Prix? He's going to send it down the inside of the Ferrari, and is he going to be able to make this move stick? They continue to go side by side, but the exit speed from that Ferrari is absolutely unreal, and Perez just can't do anything about it. And Fernando Alonso is looking to get himself back into the lead again. He's had a couple of cracks in the last few laps, and he's going to get the move done. Once again, Sergio Perez finally gets himself ahead of Carlos Sainz here. And so that is him up into P4, but he's locked up and immediately just given the spot back, and he's now going to be outside of DRS. So Sainz is going to be, I would imagine, grinning from ear to ear inside of that helmet of his. Back on board with ourselves here. It's currently lap 23. We're still trying to hunt down Stroll here. We're just kind of stuck in his DRS. But Mark, this is the news that I hate during the races. We've got sensor issues. So our pit wall is currently blind. They don't know what's going on with the car. So before I know, the engine has absolutely cooked the sensor to death. And I am now currently blind as well. So we just have to absolutely pray that this car is going to make it to the end of this Grand Prix without having an electrical issue. We're going to send it around the outside of Stroll very cheekily there. There was barely a car width there. I had to stick 2 wheels over the other edge of the curb. But it's all done. And that is us back up into P6 as looking on board here. This is going to be Oscar Piastri. And he's making a move for Fernando Alonso. What's happened to Alonso? Alonso's lost 4 seconds to Lando Norris. What is going on with that Aston Martin? We saw Stroll struggling in the first stint. Has this absolutely hit Fernando Alonso like a train? Because he's now just lost second place to the other McLaren, which has made it a 1-2 for McLaren here. And for ourselves, we've now lost out to Stroll once again. And Stroll's had an engine failure directly in front of us. And that is going to give us P6 back. And there's debris everywhere. What's happened? We're on board here with George Russell trying to work out what's going on. A bit of, it's just a bit of confusion there with who's going what way, and George Russell's hit the rear of Stroll, and that's 100% a pit stop because that was the entire front wing sitting on the racetrack. Lewis Hamilton's taken advantage of everything that's going on. You can see there, George Russell has come in to the pits there, and yeah, Hamilton's taken full advantage. He's got himself by us, so we're struggling on our tyres now. We are struggling. The car feels like it's falling to bits at the moment, and it is not a nice feeling to be driving this car right now. Tyres are overheating. Everything's just going wrong, as we now need to charge our ERS, so Mark wants us to back off the pace. So we're going to do just that. We're going to have to kind of concede it to Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen currently sitting in P9 of the championship leader. Sergio Perez now gets himself by Fernando Alonso. And speaking of Max Verstappen, that is an engine failure for our championship leader. What has been a terrible day just got a whole lot worse for Max Verstappen. George Russell sets the fastest lap of the race on those fresh tyres right at the end here. We're going to save all the ERS so that Mark wants us to. So we have backed off there. You can see now 3 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. And speaking of Hamilton, pushing like a madman, and he's got himself by Fernando Alonso. So in the last stage of this race, Alonso's gone from P2 down to P6, but it's going to be Lando Norris in this championship battle. Another giant swing in points. Norris claims victory. Oscar Piastri makes it in McLaren 1-2. So another big swing, not only in the Drivers' Championship, but the Constructors' Championship as well. Carlos Sainz, the home hero, is going to get home to get us podium at his home race. For ourselves, we did everything that we can, and it is going to be for a P7 in the end, which I guess is pretty good. We got points, that's all I could have asked for.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
And here he comes. It's all go, go, go for Lando Norris as he takes the checkered flag and wins. And look at that, they're making their way out onto the podium now. Great race from the McLaren team, and I'm very happy to see them there on that top step of the podium.
And there we have it. That's a third career victory for Lando Norris here in this F1 24 driver career world. And it was a McLaren 1-2 with Oscar Piastri claiming P2 there. So they're going to be really happy of that giant point swing that McLaren's about to get in this constructors battle. And yeah, Carlos Sainz finishing P3. Wow. What a race that was. Pretty much a race-long battle for the win as we check out the rest of the top 10. And it's Sergio Perez ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Fernando Alonso ended up all the way down in P6, so it did not go to plan for himself. Myself in P7, Esteban Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly rounds out the points here. And our teammate Valtteri Bottas finishes P14 in the end. So not a bad recovery drive at all. Max Verstappen actually ended up being classified 4 laps down in P19, but it is going to be Stroll who's going to be the only non-finisher of this race, considering Max Verstappen did have that engine failure. Looking at the standings, though, Max Verstappen leads the Drivers' Championship by 27 points to Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri sits P3, he's 75 points back. Myself now P9, we've jumped ahead of George Russell after Russell not scoring any points. We're 153 points behind, and our teammate sitting P19 yet to score a point in this championship. McLaren lead the Constructors' Championship by 12 points ahead of Red Bull Racing, and then it's Ferrari sitting P3 there, 116 points behind, and Sauber, we currently sit P6 in a pretty healthy P6 in the end as well, 253 points back, and we are leading our rivalry now against George Russell. We only need 13 more championship points to get ourselves this championship rivalry win. So it is all to play for, and we're only leading by 2 points as well. As we check out our driver ratings, so our experience is going up, racecraft is up, awareness is up, pace is up, focus is up, and our overall level is 82. And we've actually had a change in our recognition. We are now at 49% versus 51%. So the swing of favoritism in the team, I think, is starting to begin. I don't want to sound too biased, but I am doing quite well, I believe, in my rookie season, and so it's finally good to see that I'm starting to get that little bit more recognition that I think that I deserve in the R&D and just in the team in general. As we take a look at the specialists, we did manage to pass all of our specialists here, and the quality assurance tester is so close to getting to level 1 and getting that extra perk, so hopefully in the next race weekend we can get that one ticked off, get it up to level 1, and that is going to be all for this episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you when we head to the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix, and it's another sprint round, so even more points to try and get to see if we can't win this driver rivalry with either Yuki Tsunoda. We still got the battle with Yuki Tsunoda. We have to get ourselves up to level 83. And also with George Russell, just need to get those few more points, 13 more World Championship points. And we have got that one done as well. So I'll see you there. See ya.